Hello again, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Crætive Mind. We are honored, sincerely honored, to have you back with us. As this week we continue our journey with Maike on her journey with Ayahuasca in conversation. Maike took her trip to the other side and is now back integrating herself into our trip. The trip we call life. Also, we do not promote the use of legal or illegal psychoactive substances.
Honestly, I don't know where to start.
Okay, you just recently got back from the Netherlands. When did you get back? Saturday? And today
Saturday, and today is Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah. That's where you can start. Today is Tuesday.
I know why it's so difficult, because there were a lot of people asking, how was it? And I want to know everything. And then I said, I can't tell everything right now, because in the first couple of days I had no words for this, what I experienced. And I still don't know if I have words, but I will try to tell this story, because I think it was the most scary and in the same time beautiful experience I ever had in my life. And for me, it felt and still feels life-changing.
Yeah, you mentioned people asked you, they want to know everything, and I completely get that, and I got that a lot, and I, of course, I wanted to tell a lot of my story, and I wanted to tell the process and the beauty of it, but you can't tell everything, and there's two reasons why you can't tell everything. One, a lot of it's for you, right? Remember, I told you before you go that this is a journey you have with yourself. So it's mostly for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, as many visionary artists will tell you all the time, humans that do attempt to capture this peek into this other world through artistry, they say, no matter what words I have, no matter what tools I have, or no matter my paintbrushes or my skills, I can only shed a fraction of the light of what I experienced.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to describe. It's impossible to conjure in an artistic way in this realm. So you're only going to get a fraction.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's why I can't put it into words. And also, even if I can describe something or some realizations and stuff like that, the thing is, people have to feel it to really understand. Yeah. Where do we start?
Maybe you can start, it's easier to explain our mutual friend, the woman who sat with you, and maybe how your day started, because that's usually where I started my story, is where the morning starts.
And you know that this whole story or journey started in an interesting way, because my flight was delayed. And there we come to my topic of the impatience. But at that point, I wasn't impatient, because I was just like, okay, I was already, as we know from the first episode, in this process of whatever will happen is right. So for me, it was also right that the flight was delayed and everything. And I also, when I landed, was driving with the train to Den Haag and having the most wonderful sundown from the train. And I was already in this beautiful, magical space. And then arriving at her house, we hugged each other, and it was like we've known each other from before. And then we were talking a bit, and then I went to bed because she had to go to Elternabend, parents' evening because of her kids in school. And then I was alone at home with the rabbit and 2 birds. And I was also very tired, so I went to bed. I was sleeping in her daughter's room, which was also very beautiful with a lot of plants and cozy. And I've already felt safe there, which is really important. And I slept very well. And the next morning I woke up and looked at the wall, and there was a painting of the daughter who I didn't see that the evening before. And it was a huge eye looking at me. And I thought, okay, here we are, and I'm in the right place, and let's do this. So I got up, and we decided, because I was staying at her house, to first go to the beach and have tea and talk a bit about my topics or intentions or whatever, and then start in the early afternoon. So we went to the beach. It was the most beautiful sunny day. I was sitting in the Netherlands at the beach again. And so we had a beautiful conversation, but I could also feel this. There was something coming up already. I felt this tension coming, like, okay, what will happen? And then there was also a bit like an impatience again coming up, because I thought, I think I just want to start, because I realized that I start thinking about what will happen and stuff like that. So I felt this, okay, let's just go home and do it. I didn't say it, but it felt like it, but it was okay. So we went home and prepared everything. So we were in her living room, and she was on the sofa, and there was a mattress. She prepared a mattress next to the sofa where I was lying on. And then she explained everything to me and asked if I still have questions. We were talking. She said, you can set intentions if you want. And I did. And I thought, maybe we'll see what happens with these intentions, whatever. And she said a few very important things. She said, you just have to remember that nothing is normal, or nothing will be normal or feel normal like it normally does. Time will feel different. It can be very short or very long, but it's not this time we experience in this human life. And she also said, you might feel at some point like you will die, but you won't. And she said, the only thing where you can always get back to is your breath. Remember that. And that was actually in the end what brought me through everything. So, that was the start. And then, so I had the first ayahuasca shot, and she said, this is the not the strong one. This is the how do you say? The first round. And I drank it, and I was waiting, and there was nothing happening. And I felt again this impatience and so many thoughts going through my head. And I thought, am I still resisting to something? Is this just not for me, or is it whatever? I forgot, but there were so many things going through my head.
I just wanted to say a little
please.
bit of something here. It's so interesting and so beautiful that so maybe it's good for the listeners to know that when you do something like this the correct way, whether it be psilocybin, whether it be ayahuasca, whether it be LSD or iboga, or it doesn't really. DMT might be the only one, the exception of this, but you will you will follow a pretty strict diet leading up to it, which is usually about 7 days pre-medicine journey day. And in this process that it already begins. And now you know this. It already begins once you start this. And which I found incredibly intriguing in my own journey with it. And to remind listeners, I have not done ayahuasca. I had a psilocybin ceremony. But the process begins. And to this day, I'm still intrigued, like, does my body already know I'm about to take this journey? Like, really? Because it already begins. And whatever it is that this journey is providing for you, the process begins. And this is just an observation or maybe a little bit of perhaps a teaser, but I feel like that your impatience, the situation that you have with being patient, had already began in a multitude of ways. As you said, the flights were delays, and then the impatience of when's this thing going to start? I just drank it. It's just like a total. It's just like, but it also mirrors other things in your life, right? You speak of this a lot about your impatience and these things. So yeah, I what I'm saying is that it's insane that the medicine starts working before you even take it.
You're right. It's already started long before. And it's the same it's not only with when you do something like this, it's also when I do my energy work, when people register, they feel the process is already started because they decide to do something. And it's always about the decision. That was, I also learned in this whole journey. It's always a decision. So I don't know, after a while, she asked me if I already feel something. And I said, I don't know, because I didn't know. It was my first time. So then she said, do you want to have the second shot? And I said, yes. And it was a different one. It also looked different and it tasted different. And the first one was for me disgusting. And the second one, it tasted very good. And I thought, that's good. So let's drink this. And then I was waiting again. I don't know for how long. And I also thought, okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe I need a third one or whatever. And then all of a sudden it was like, boom. And I don't know. And now here we go. I can try to explain what happened, but I will never, ever be able to describe what happened, what I saw, what kind of pictures, what everything. But the first thing what I remember is that I was lying on this mattress, and the mattress felt like a hole where I was in. And I felt so heavy, but also held, and it was good. And I was crying so much. I don't know if I ever cried so much in my life. And I just remember that I had this tissue in my hand, and I thought, oh, it's wet again. And I took a new one, and it was wet again. And I thought, where do all these tears come from? And all of us, and then also in the same time, I saw this huge spiral, which was in so many colors, pulling me in one picture, in the next picture, and it was all merging into it. The pictures were just like everything was one. And I was in this whole thing. And so there was the crying. And then at some point, all of a sudden, I was laughing. And I had this feeling like, do I cry and laugh in the same time? And I was. So, or I don't know if I was, but it felt like it. And it was, and then I saw these like this laughter of mine was also like, I saw these monsters laughing, and in the same time there was so much light and everything, and that was the first thing I thought, Jesus Christ, it's everything is one, and it's just a huge joke. And what we think, what is good or bad, or what is funny or sad or whatever, it's just one. There is no good or bad or funny or sad or whatever. It's one.
Oh my gosh, it's funny. Like you said that it's hard to put in words, and something like this is very hard to put in words. But you immediately went to the core of one of these experiences.
Yes,
you just went to the core of it.
And it was in the beginning, but there's so much more to come. But the core was happening in the beginning, and it was like bam.
Yeah, this is, you know, I'll tell my story another time because I do want to tell it. But overall, the comedy of our life was the first thing that presented itself, being like, really, you take all this shit seriously? Come on. It's the most obvious thing. It's like the threshold of, you're right, these things, these entities laughing at you, being like, hey, you fell for it.
Yes.
And then you realize that, again, I feel like giving away the end of the story, but everything is one, and we'll get back to that. It's like you went to the core first, so I'm curious as to where it went after that.
Yes, that was the beginning. And to be honest, now that I'm telling it, I'm really grateful that this happened in the beginning, because this realization also was like, already there was such a change already happening, but then it got to the heavy part, because then all of a sudden I felt my body doing strange things. And I don't know if it was an illusion or not, but I felt my heart hurt. And immediately I knew that this was a topic, whatever topic it was, but I felt that there was something and I had to go through or let go of or whatever. Then my belly hurt. And then there came a point where I had to move because I felt very uncomfortable in my whole body. So I moved and I turned around, and then I was cold, and then I took the blanket, and then I was warm, and then I like everything, and I felt there's so much, whatever it is, going through my body and making myself feeling very uncomfortable. And then it got a bit scary because I also felt the shaman on the sofa moving, and I thought, oh my God, now something is wrong because she's moving. She has to be careful now with me. And I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen now? Because I could see her also getting up, coming closer to me, looking what was happening with me. But my eyes were always closed. Sometimes I opened them and I still could see where I was. But I felt like, okay, I don't know where to go, what to do, how to sit or lie or whatever. And
it's quite beautiful. And I just kind of noticed it while you were describing it. And I had the same thing. But first you were shown the laughter and the comedy of this thing being a facade, this life. And then you're shown briefly that everything is one, everything is connected, nothing matters, evil, good, it's all the same. And then immediately you go back to experiencing your own body. See, you have these mortal feelings. It's almost like, oh my gosh, I'm in this vessel. I can feel this thing. I feel uncomfortable. This person around me. So you immediately start struggling with mortality.
Yes.
Again, I felt like that's what it is.
Yes, and that's what it was. It's good that you said that, because that's exactly what happened then, and what was a very long I don't know, because I don't know what the time was, but that was a huge, deep and long process, me dealing with my body. At some point also, I felt like my hands are somewhere, and I don't know if they're still at my body, or can I just touch them or whatever. I felt like I don't know what my body is anymore. And in the same time, I felt like all these strange energies moving in my body. And then she felt there was something coming. At some point, she was drumming. And then I knew, okay, something has to go out. And then I had these pictures I was in these ceremonies of Native Americans for a long time, and in one ceremony and in the other and in the next, and it didn't stop. And I felt, so how many things do I have to let go of? I can't do this anymore, because at some point I was so, and to be honest, this is very hard to describe now, because this is just a glimpse of everything. I felt so uncomfortable, but the thing is now, so here it comes. I knew that I was in this process, and there were some moments it just felt like a huge nightmare, but you can't escape it. And this is where I think now I've faced a lot of darkness and a lot of stuff I was carrying with for my whole life. The thing is, you cannot escape it. It's always with you. And you also cannot control it. And you just have to accept that you are in this process right now, and that you can't escape, and that you have to breathe. And that was the moment where I always got back to my breath, because that was the only thing that was holding me. And then she was next to me at some point, and I realized that there was a moment I thought, it's enough now, I can't, because I felt like I don't know what's happening. And then I said to her, and that was the first thing I said, and I think that was already in the middle of the process. To be honest, I also forgot a bit what happened, because I also felt like I have to vomit, but I didn't. But I was sitting next to this bucket and feeling like, okay, is there something coming out or not? And I was so desperate in everything, but in the same time, you know what? The moment you let go of and accept that you are in this process and just be with this process, your intuition is always right. Always. I was like moving and doing the right thing that brought me to the next moment.
A little bit. I like little bitty reflections in there, because I think the things you say are so important. I just want to make sure that the people grasp onto the beautiful things that you inline in there, and that being that you said darkness is always there, because the darkness is a part of us. So this whole struggle of trying to shed your darkness or suppress it or get rid of it, so you just bathe in the light all the time. No, the darkness is a part of you. You can only accept it. And this is what you learn in this. And then this intuitiveness, you said, you really tune into, like, your intuition is much like your breath. Think about that for a second. Mm-hmm. Your intuition is just like your breath. And because your breath is usually your anchor, right? You said that was your anchor in the situation, and it normally is. But think about that, because you can breathe without telling yourself or focusing on breathing. It's a happening. It happens whether you're conscious to it or not. But you can tune into it at any time to use as an anchor and then control things better. Same with intuition. It's always there. It's always flowing. Regardless if you tune into it and focus it or not, it's much like your breath. Mm-hmm. You don't control your breath. You don't control your intuition. It is a happening that you can tune into that anchors you and guides you, keeps you alive, keeps you on the path. Intuition, breath, same thing. That's just what I wanted to briefly say.
Yeah, it's so true. You know, even, and that's where the human kicked in again, because I still was in this, but I want to control this. And I also had this fear of that it's too much, I can't deal with it. And I know that at some point I looked at her, and this was very interesting because I saw her standing next to me, and I looked at her, and I didn't know her name anymore, who she was. I didn't know my name anymore. So this is where, we will come to this later. But I was just saying, and I think that was one of the only things I said during this whole thing. I said to her, "It's enough now. It's time to wake up."
Again, it's so funny that this mirrors kind of what I've heard through you in many other facets of your life. There's several times where you're saying, okay, this is too much. It's too much for me. It's enough now. It's enough now. It all ties back into patience, whether it's ready for something or patience for something to be over. It's the same. It literally is the same topic every single time you talk about. Like, you want to control time. You want to control time. Mm-hmm. You want to control before, when it's over, when it starts. There's this massive thing that you're. Yeah, so it's beautiful to hear you keep saying that, okay, this is over now, make it stop.
No, yeah, and the thing is, then she said, she was just looking at me, taking my hand, and said, it's a process, it's a journey. And there I realized, okay, I still can't escape, and I will have the power. So, or I don't know if I will have the power. I don't know. I didn't know anything anymore. So I don't know what happened then, but I know that after that, I went through a process of so many deaths and births and whatever. I think at some point I was really sitting, she was behind me, and I was sitting like this, like a woman giving birth to something in this position also. And I was like, what am I? But it felt like also I let go of so many things I was holding in my body, but I can't say what it was, and it doesn't matter because I felt it. But in the same time, I felt like also giving birth to something, and then I saw all these pictures. And then the interesting thing is, this was something where it started not only the death, but also the birth, because I had these pictures of things happening in my life, of visions I had, where I knew this is a vision I have for my future. The interesting thing is that also I realized, and that's what she also said afterwards the next day to me, death and birth are the same. So I don't know if that was before or after, but I felt like melting to something. And there was a point where I couldn't open my eyes anymore. I just know that I was sitting there, her behind me, breathing. But at some point, I also didn't know if I still can control my breath. And then I couldn't open my eyes anymore. And I was in this, I saw all this merging whatever, and I felt like I'm in this, and I didn't know where my body was anymore. And I felt like, okay, now everything is melting, and it doesn't matter. And then I really had this moment of where I felt, okay, will I die now? And I also felt that I can't control this. And I felt like, okay, maybe I will die now. I also remembered at that point that she said, maybe you will have this moment, but you won't die. But in that moment, I felt, but well, maybe I will die. And then I think I had this moment of letting go and thinking, whatever, what the fuck, whatever.
I think that's beautiful, because that is a lot that what we go through, this life and death. Is very interesting that you said that this thing felt like a birth, and you even find yourself like in a giving birth position at one point. And this time that she so intuitively told you that, you know, or before, that you will feel like you're being born and dying over and over and over. And she said specifically, you will die, but you won't. Boom. Think about that for a second. We have this existential fear of death, that we think it's an ending. That even in this reality, we feel that death, it happens, but you don't die in the sense of what we think death is. And this circle of death, life, death, life, death, life. Again, back to this oneness of it experiencing itself through this journey. Death is not death and rebirth. That's a beginning and end, something we only know in our made up time zones. Everything has a beginning and an end. She said that to you in two ways, I believe. She said that you may feel like you're going to die physically, but you won't. But also, you may feel like you're going to die one day, but you won't. Same thing. So I just wanted to tune that up a bit and then bring some focus to it.
It's so true. I'm sorry, I'm just having this realization of what you were saying. Yeah, it is true. Yeah, it was for me in that moment, but also it's true. At some point we will die, but we won't. That's so beautiful. And so here came the turning point, I guess, because in that moment of where I thought, okay, whatever, I felt like, okay, whatever will happen will be right. And then I was in this strange, I felt like floating through whatever there was. And it's interesting. I also had to think so much of my aunt who died 2 years ago, and I felt like she was so close to me in that moment. And then there was a moment, there was a voice, whatever that was, that said, "What do you want?" And I said to myself, I thought, I want to live. And I can imagine people who are in real life having how do you say in English, near death experience. I can imagine that this is something, it could feel like this, because I felt like, yeah, and here we go again. It's always a decision. I felt like, okay, I can decide if I want to die, or I can decide if I want to live. I can decide if I want to destroy my life, or I can decide to live my life to the fullest. I can decide if I want to go into the darkness or if I want to go into the light. It's always a decision. So I was having this moment where it felt like I decide to live, but what does life mean? I don't want to go back to this life and just survive. I want to live. And I realized the difference between this. That was the moment where things turned, I guess, and where I got a bit more calm. And I forgot what happened then, but I only realized that at some point I kind of woke up and was lying in the arms of the shaman, or she was still sitting behind me and holding me. And I felt held. I felt so much love. I felt like, okay, it's over now. And I felt like a newborn child. I saw myself lying there, like a newborn. And I don't know if I really opened my eyes or if I just in my imagination opened my eyes, but I felt like I'm just open. I think it was my imagination opening my eyes and just seeing all this beauty of everything what is. And I felt so grateful and that I'm here. And yeah, it was just like a newborn. But this was not the end yet. So that was also something she said.
Before you went to the next chapter, I just think I love that this is happening and this is playing out this way, because there's so many things you're saying that's such of importance in this. And I just want to bring more focus to it. You said that at one point, this feeling asked you a question, what do you want? And your answer is, I want to live. This is something that happens in almost all of these ceremony, no matter what the substance is that gets you there. Because what is that, right? What is this desire to want to live? What exactly does that mean? That means that this oneness that we are wants to have this experience. And you're accepting, this is the part of this thing, accepting that it wants to be in this process, because life is nonstop process. Mm-hmm. It's nonstop process. It's not basking in the, I am free, I am light, I am beautiful every single day of the hour of every single day. No, it's a process. And you want to have this process. This thing wants to experience it. It wants to live. It wants to live in what it created in this realm. So you saying that, what do you want? I want to live. I accept this process. I accept it. I want it. Anyway, I just wanted to tune into that a little bit too, because what you said was absolutely right. But I just wanted to bring that a little bit to the forefront, that wanting to live, whether it's almost really dying in life, you don't want the process to end. Because yes, we can bask in the fields, in the goods, but life is much more than that. It's much more than that. You know, we have this idea of when we die, we want to go to heaven so we can live in this bliss. But maybe the bliss is the oneness that we are, and it wants to experience this process. And so anyway, when you said that you wanted to live, and people who die want to live, and everybody just wants to live, why do we have fear? We have fear because we want to stay in the process. We don't want the process to end. You know, anyway, I just wanted to bring a little bit of focus to there.
Oh, there's so much in what you also said about the process. And you're right. After that, it's a perfect, we are in tune. So after that, as I said, it was not over. I just realized, okay, I got myself behind that turning point, but it was still not over. So there were, I don't know what that was, but there were emotions coming. There were also this uncomfortable feelings coming again. There were a lot of things just running through my body. And every time it came, I felt like, okay, there's another wave and it's okay. And at that point, I could enjoy the process, even if it felt really bad and sometimes sick and everything. But I knew also this will pass. So I can just surrender to whatever there is and accept that what I realize now is that after this birth and death moment, I was not at all fighting anything anymore. I was just in there then and accepting everything, what came, what went through my body, how I felt, everything. And I was, again, I don't know, I went through one Native American drumming session to another, and I always felt, okay, what's happening now? Will I die, or will I give birth to something? Will I let go of something, or will I create something, whatever. So it was this constant coming and going through the next ceremony. And I always saw these Native Americans sitting around me and doing something for me, and it was kind of funny. And also I think I have to get back to this birth point as well, because that was also a moment where I realized, I have to tell this now because we saw what happened afterwards with me. I was telling this story of I said intentions before, and I will tell you what it was. It was, first I said, I want to let go of what's not mine anymore, or what has never been mine. And second, I want to integrate whatever has to be integrated. And the third thing was, and I before I was laughing a bit at myself, and I thought, really, do you want to really ask this question? And I said, yeah, whatever will happen, we can try. And the third thing was, I was just saying, what am I here for? So, to be honest, I forgot about these questions during this process, but they were all answered. Like, I could feel the difference between my darkness and between the dark things that are not mine, because I felt like this was going and leaving my body, but the darkness, which is mine, has to be integrated because it's the light in the same time and everything is one again. So there is a difference between these things you carry but are not yours, and the darkness you want to avoid, but it is yours and you can use it. So this was it. And then after this birth and death moment, I also had these, I don't know if it was a picture, but I saw myself painting and drawing, and I felt like, oh, I have to, all this beauty, I have to bring it to the world in whatever way. So that was also a decision where I promised myself, I said, if I live, I will show this to the world.
Bringing something back to focus. This is, again, something that you are tapping in. You're saying you're pinpointing the perfect moments in a ceremony like this and what you're describing. And I just want to take these pinpointed moments that you're saying and bring them back up a little bit. What you just said about darkness, again, this acceptance of darkness and realizing that it is you have to integrate it into yourself, much like Carl Jung has wrote many books about. You have to embrace the darkness, and once you do, it's a tool. The darkness is a tool. Guess what, buddies? Guess what, all you light seekers that just want to flame in the beauty? That's not your tool. You can't do nothing with that. Nothing. That's actually your laziness. You just want to bask in the glow. Darkness is a tool. And look at all of the artists, the musicians that go through the darkest times, create the most fascinating music or fascinating art pieces. And immediately when you discovered in this journey that you wanted to, or you felt this desire and this acceptance to accept your darkness, you immediately followed that up with, I want to paint. I want to show the colors, because that is the darkness. The darkness is, yes, it's evil, and it does horrible things in our realm to horrible people and to ourselves, and it puts us in dark places. But it wants to shine. It wants to create. It wants to build beauty, even though it in itself is darkness. And this is the process of life. This is why balance is so important. This is why acceptance is so important. This is why I'm saying, yes, find your light, embrace your darkness. Together, you are processing the way this oneness needs and urges to process. It's merging, it's creating, it's a creator. So when you tune into the darkness, you immediately feel like creating. Hence, all of the artists that's ever lived. I'm in my best place as an artist when I'm in my worst place in my head. It's always been that way. And when I'm in a good mood, I can't do shit. I have no motivation. I have no anything. So again, you're just hitting the bullseyes. Absolutely, you are deadly accurate with your points in these ceremonies. It's such a beautiful thing. And I just, again, wanted to bring focus to this.
I think I have to tell, because in the first episode, we were talking about my anger. And this is connected to what we were just talking about, because I also realized in that ceremony that my anger has always been there because I was not living my life and that I was not creating. And that was the moment where as I said, that where I realized I want to use this and create something out of this. I don't have to reach anything. I just want to live, which is being in the moment and just be connected to the source we are or within or whatever, and bring that out of your body and not suppress it. So yeah, sorry, I'm a bit slowly right now because I'm just thinking about what you said as well, because I think that people that's also why there's so much anger in the world, because people don't use it and they're turning it against other people or against their selves, sabotaging, or against whatever it is, but they don't use it in this creative way, whatever creation is. You can create everything. You don't have to be an artist for that. Creation is something that comes out of yourself, and you don't have to reach something with it. You just have to, that's living and that's being.
What is creation, right? The fact that we can all create. We all as kids do create. We're fixated with creating. Creating is giving birth. It's birth. So we are indoctrinated by this this oneness that we discover in this in these ceremonies, that giving birth is the start of, well, it's creation. It's creating. Like being born is being created. So we have this we're indoctrinated in and I need to create. I need to build. I need to create, because when I get to my story, that might make a little bit more sense than what I experienced. But I think it's a beautiful thing that as kids, as everyone, I'm having so many visions while I'm having this conversation, like in my table. It's crazy. Like I'm seeing all these faces looking at me, much like I told you, interesting things happen when I just have coffee and I don't eat. Like I'm having visions. I can still tune into things. And I told you my connection with coffee. Like that's my anchor into this other realm, if I'm being honest with you. And I'm literally, okay, people think I'm crazy, but I'm seeing things in my table. But I always see faces in everything. It's much like I always see faces in stains or trees or in any kind of whatever. I will find a face of some sorts, whether it's human or something else. And maybe this is them giving me the nod, like, yes, speak it. But yeah, we're creators, and we're all creators. We're all kids. We're all like kids. We draw, we create, we explore, we do these things. And not to get too far off the subject, but this is something too that I wanted to mention for the people who have yet to experience this any of these journeys, or don't know a lot about them. As I said in the beginning, that Maike and I had different forms or different vessels to use in our medicines. She went with ayahuasca, and I did psilocybin. Now, the funny thing about psilocybin is it is itself indoctrinated into everything. Like how LSD is made comes from psilocybin. Ayahuasca comes from parts of psilocybin and what DMT, which is in all plants and all things. So even in itself, even though there are different medicines, they all had the same partial ingredients, which is mostly psilocybin. But the overall consensus as to people doing the different medicines, and what you do is you have different journeys. And what's very well known in the ayahuasca world, as you've mentioned this many times, and I really wanted to ask you this question, and you've answered it like 5 times without me even asking it, is that you felt the presence of the tribes, the tribal people, the indigenous energies. This has always been the connection of ayahuasca. And I believe for myself, this is my intuition here. The reason that is, as I told you, that there are many different medicines that you can take, both, chemical like LSD, although it's pure and you cannot OD or be addicted. There has no addiction properties whatsoever. But it stems from psilocybin. The same with ayahuasca, stems from parts of psilocybin and DMT. But the indigenous people learned how to do it that way. That was their way. The peyote, the tribal things, they're connected in older generations. This is how they tapped into this thing. So they are themselves integrated into the ayahuasca journey. So when you are using this specific vessel to go into their tunnel that they created, you will experience them along the way. And this is also why you don't do this with just psilocybin, with just like a mushroom ceremony. You don't go through I never went through the tribal part, because that was not a venue, a tunnel that they created. So I think it's so fascinating for myself to hear you, and to already have known this the war drums, the different tribals, people that guided you along the way. They are the people who made this, as I keep saying, this tunnel into this other realm, and they are there to greet you. It's like, welcome to to our way to connect. And I think intuitively that's exactly what it is. And again, I just wanted to touch a little bit about that, and also that ayahuasca is also known. Again, I haven't had a firsthand experience, so I'm just regurgitating this, like 6 or 7 years of being fixated and over studying these things. Is this very feminine energy with ayahuasca, hence why you feel this giving birth, all this motherhood. And that's why it's called Mother Ayahuasca, because it's in tune with the feminine energy as we are as beings. And I think that is also beautiful to hear you say stuff like, I felt like I was in the giving birth situation. You had this lot of thought of birth. Again, feminine energy, Mother Ayahuasca. You're right in tune with everything I have ever learned or read or listened to for years, without us ever having that dialogue about that. You are indeed explaining that. So it's just beautiful the way that it played out. And mine was different. Like, again, my story will come later, but psilocybin was more of a DMT experience. And it's a completely different experience, but it gets to the same core.
Yeah. So it's so good that you said that. This waking up process I experienced then of slowly discovering the world again in this new way, all these pictures, and also my body. I was touching my body then and feeling like it felt, and my arms and everything. And as I said, I felt this huge gratefulness for being alive. I felt so much love. I immediately wanted to tell everyone close in my life that I love them. And there's no reason not to say this just for the people. You know this, but a few weeks ago, that it was the first moment in my life I told my dad that I love him. And it was hard for me to do this. And in this moment in the ceremony, I thought, there's no reason not to tell this to anyone. When you feel it, say it.
Exactly what I told you. And when you first, I think we were in the car and we were driving on Ventura, and you told me you'd never done. I was like, you never done what? He was like, yeah, he never will. I was like, it doesn't matter what he does. It's not about him. Tell your father you love him. Yeah. It's almost the same. It's the exact same thing. And again, that's not me.
I know. Yeah.
The love. That's the love. That's integrated in it. And
also, because you telling about nature, I realized I didn't realize, I felt with my whole body that I am nature, and that there's also no reason to do whatever we do with our bodies to destroy them. We should be incredibly grateful for our bodies, that we have them, that they work for us, that they let us feel this life. So we should stop destroying them and support them in the best way we can. And it's also very interesting you telling about ayahuasca as a feminine energy. That's so true. And it was for me also I know why this was the right decision to do ayahuasca, because in my case, it was also a lot about, it had a lot to do with femininity and being a woman. Because I also, in this whole process, I realized that I've never lived really who I am as a woman. I felt like I still was living at some points in my life a lot of my hurt child, and not the woman I am. This also has something to do with society, because I was talking to the shaman afterwards about this topic, and before as well. Women were also in history a lot like suppressed, and so that we learned to suppress certain things, or we learned what a woman has to be, or how a woman has to be sexy, or whatever. There's so much to say about this, but I just felt that a woman is like a flower. It doesn't have to run after something. We are here to create. And that's what I never did in my life, because I was running after so many things. But I think I will stop with this womanhood talk now here, because that was just a beautiful experience for me. And this now came to my mind because you talking about ayahuasca, that I discovered what the feminine part inside of myself is, and that I want to live that.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, it's a different topic, but there's something that I do want to say about this particular feminine part of ayahuasca and the connection to it. Yes, there are things in society that suppresses women's connection to their own feminine energy. But what I wanted to also point out, though, this is for the fellas, this is for the guys, that it's not that ayahuasca and this feminine connection is not only about that, because as beings we are naturally balanced as children. We have masculine and feminine energies that are given to us as the makeup of what we are. And as we grow further into our journeys in this realm, men are taught to tune into their masculine sides. Women are taught to, are guided to tune into their feminine sides, but at the same time, these feminine energies that women are told to, are guided through, are being corralled by the masculine energies of, in the past, mostly men. That is that is exactly true. But the reason I want to bring this up right now is that I want to shed a little light on, it's not just for women to do ayahuasca, to tune in with their feminine energies. It's also for you too, guys, because we too, through society, are heavily suppressed in our feminine energies. So what this does is it brings a light on what you and what we as men also have as well. We have feminine energies. And ayahuasca can also help you as well as a man, because as creation goes, we are all the same thing. But in the creative process, there has to be different tools of creation. That is why a man and a woman were created to come together to create more of us. But underneath it all, we are the same. We are masculine and feminine. And just society has a way of suppressing feminine in women and massively feminine in men.
Yes.
So don't be detoured because this is we talk about this being a feminine energy and something that women need to reconnect to their feminine. That goes for us too, dudes. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for saying this. This is so important. Yes. There's nothing to add. But yes, it's about the feminine energy. Yes. So I think we're already at the end of the whole process, which is, of course, just a glimpse of everything. But I think these were the main points. And so what I can say now is that, I think there's also one interesting thing, because I said that in this whole deep and heavy process, the shaman was always with me and looking what I need. Do I need to be held? Do I need to, whatever it is? And at some point she said to me, I'm gonna go to the toilet now. She left the room and I immediately was like, shit, what's happening now? And I had this moment of, what if I die now when she's gone?
Oh God, this is going to be a beautiful climax to what we do in the end.
Okay.
Yeah, no, finish. Please finish. Yeah.
Okay, I finished. Because then she went, and then I had a really film moment. I was sitting on this mattress and looking into the room, because there was another room in the back where I could see that she's in there, because she grabbed something to like a pullover or something. And then I looked at her, and all of a sudden I saw her 3 times, like grabbing that pullover, going to the toilet, doing something else with the birds. And I thought, what is that? And then I was sitting there and thinking, okay, time is an illusion, because I see her 3 times now, and maybe she already is on the toilet, but I still see her here. Where is she? And I was sitting there for the first time on my own again, breathing and thinking, okay, she will come back, and I can also breathe now, and I can breathe on my own, and I can be on my own as well. That's maybe how it is with babies. At some point, they learn to walk on their own. So I was sitting there, breathing again, back to the breath, sitting there upright for the first time, watching the room, discovering it, calming myself down that I'm on my own now. And that was for me also, and the realization, okay, I have the power and the strength to be on my own, because I am everything. I am whole, I am powerful, and I don't need anyone else to hold me anymore, because now I am here, I am complete now.
Wow. Wow. It's so fucking beautiful to realize or to see the parallel journeys that we had. Again, I'll start with this. I do know now what our next podcast will be, and I want to do it as early as tomorrow. I want to tell my story because I am tuned into it and I'm vibrant. I think it has to flow after this.
I think so too.
But to briefly describe and to mirror what you just said, I remember this as well. I remember at my point, which I'll get to my story, as I said later, but as I was laying down with my eyes closed, I could always feel my sitter in the room with me. Anytime she got up, anytime she moved, I could feel her emotions. She started crying with me at some point as I was crying, and I could feel it. I knew it without not even facing to where I was laying down and facing the other way, but I could feel her. And I remember I was in such a beautiful flow. To give a little bit of away, I never had a dark experience in my entire trip. This was the darkest thing that happened. She said, "I've got to go downstairs to the toilet." And I was just like, "You're gonna leave me?" And I was just like, no. It was just almost like this massive panic just overtook me. And I was just like, okay. And I just remember being just like, what's gonna happen? And I could visually see her, and my eyes never opened, walk and go down the steps and go out to the bathroom. I was with her the whole time. And I could feel her coming back. But I remember too that her leaving the room was just such a and you dialed into exactly what this is at the very end of what you say. And I think this is going to be a beautiful way to wrap this up. We talked about this before. This necessity we have as humans in everyday life to have a partnership that support us, because we don't know how to support ourselves. We lose that because as children, we're brave in a way. We just kind of go and explore, but our parents, wanting to protect us, wanting to help us, teach us and then integrate into our thinking that we need support to be okay. And we take this with us through life. And this is why people have to have relationship. They have to have friendship. They have to have someone there with them, because as children, we are taught that we need support. You always know the kids that maybe had a rough life and their parents weren't there so much for them. This is another topic, but although they're not nurtured in ways that helps them, but they have this strong sense of self. Now, whether that is they're rebels and they made bad choices in life, but whatever it is, they are structured firmly within themselves. And this is also the life of a monk, right? They disconnect themselves with this necessity to have, my rabbit is incredibly excited right now, this need of support in another person, much like a ceremony situation that you're having, much like whatever, you have that support and it leaves, you're like, can I do this? But when you give yourself time in life to build your self structure, to be okay with being with you, you realize you could do that because you are this thing. You don't, this is an illusion that you need support. And once you come one with that, all the relationships in your life become that much more beautiful. You don't need them.
Yeah.
You experience them. And that's such a much more beautiful connection than necessity. So yeah, we experience the same thing. And it's a beautiful analogy towards life and why so many people need people to lean on to live.
I think I'm not going to dive into this because this is another topic now, but that was, actually a very beautiful moment. And I also thought that you should tell your story, because there's also so much more I want to say, and which will maybe come also through your story. But maybe just to end this episode now is, you mentioned it also in the middle of the episode. I got many messages already before this story now, after the first episode, people telling me, I want to do ayahuasca too. Please listen to your intuition and don't just follow whatever it is. Do your research, listen to your intuition. And I think you can tell something to this as well. But what I, for me, want to tell people from my experience now is, there are so many ways you can reconnect with yourself, and it doesn't have to be ayahuasca or mushrooms or any psychedelics. There are also other ways. You will follow your intuition and you will find your way, but please find your way and reconnect to yourself and discover who you really are, because if you don't, you will always run after something which is not you. And then you don't live your life.
Beautifully said. And as you mentioned, and I will also regurgitate it my way, is that is the key. That is the key. The key is to find intrigue, right? Okay, I'm intrigued about these medicines and what they can do for me, and how they have these resetting properties as we all seek. Everybody says, find your inner child, reset your life. Yes, of course, this is what these tools are. But what you have to be very careful of is just latching on to this, especially in the society that we live now, which is, we need everything instant gratification, instant dopamine hit. It's don't listen to what I'm trying to say is, don't listen to our journeys and immediately be like, okay, she did ayahuasca, it was beautiful for her, I need to go do ayahuasca. No, do not do that. Do not listen to my story and be like, oh, I need to go have a psilocybin ceremony, I need to have mushroom ceremony. No, that's not the way. What the way is to feel that intrigue, feel that invite that you have, because we are all the same and we can all do this. But as Maike said, do your research, study, see what calls you, and put in the effort. Don't be lazy about it and just be like, oh, that worked for Maike, I'm going to go do it too. You don't know what will connect you. And whatever Maike's journey was, whatever my journey is, whatever anybody else's journey is, will not be your journey. It will be your own. So take the intrigue, take the invite to the world, but don't follow the path. Find your own. Hi there. Thanks again for joining us. I hope that warmed your heart as much as it warmed our hearts to share this journey with you. And speaking of fiery hearts, we hope you tune in again next time for another journey within a journey that will soon be. Bye for now.